The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
Where strange lights speed beyond reason across a clear night sky.
The house at the end of the road where disembodied voices whisper and strange noises make the living shiver.
Lurking shadows hiding on the edge of the woods just outside your back door.
Odd, true events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole. I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome, all you fellow wanderers. I'm Wes, and that's my wife Beth sitting across from me.
Hello, everyone.
So we have a bonus episode for you this week, and we hope you all enjoy it. So let's get into it. Beth, where did your mind wander this week?
Well, I have a question for you. How would you feel about living underground?
Well, you know, I really don't care for daylight, and I've always worked overnights and slept during the day, so that would be perfect. It would be nice and cool and quiet, like living in the Batcave.
Well, then I may have found the perfect place for you. A town in the outback of Australia named Coober Pedy.
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, first, I just love saying Coober Pedy, so I'll try not to say it more than...
Coober Pedy.
It's so much fun.
That does roll off the tongue.
So in Coober Pedy, 50 to 70% of the inhabitants live, work, shop, and worship underground.
Where do I sign up?
150 million years ago, where the town of Coober Pedy now exists, there was once a massive ocean. The constant tide carried minerals from the sandstone seafloor deep into cracks in the earth, leaving behind silica deposits that over time hardened, creating a massive bed of opals. In 1858, millennia after the ocean had dried up, Scottish explorer John McDowell Stuart showed up and named the nearby mountain ridge the Stuart Range. Because, why not name things after yourself, even if the land already belonged to indigenous people?
Why not? We do it all the time.
Yeah. The area, filled with sand and with summer temperatures averaging above 100 degrees, held little vegetation. Drought was, and still is, a constant worry. It was generally so inhospitable that the nearest town is 500 kilometers away. And yet, a small gold mining town was established in 1915, and by the next year, news of the vast riches of opals had reached far and wide because of 14-year-old Willie Hutchinson. Willie was part of a small group of gold prospectors, and in dire need of water, the men had gone in search of a water source, leaving Willie back at camp by himself. Thirsty and annoyed at being left behind, he decided to go look for himself. When the rest of the group returned to camp, they were worried to find that Willie had disappeared, until he strolled into camp that night with news that he'd found 2 weeks' worth of water. He also just happened to have a bucket load worth of opals in a sack over his shoulder.
Well, I know I'd be worried if my Willie disappeared.
And came back with something slung over its shoulder.
Right.
By the 1970s and 80s, there were more than 1,000 opal miners in Coober Pedy, which had become known as, and still is, the opal mining capital of the world. The town's name comes from the Aboriginal term for boy's waterhole, but the long-standing joke is that it actually means white man in a hole.
Oh my God.
An estimated 70% of the world's opal production can be linked to Coober Pedy, and the majority of its residents work in the industry in some way. Over the years, their efforts have revealed some pretty amazing results. For example, the world's largest opal, found in 1956 in Coober Pedy's 8-mile opal field, weighed in at 17,000 carats, which is 7.7 pounds.
That's huge.
That's huge. The Olympic Australis, a very pure opal, is valued at more than 2 million Australian dollars, which is roughly 1.5 million US. One of the latest finds in 2016 was a set of opalized pearls that turned out to be more than 65 million years old. But as I had mentioned, The terrain and heat of the outback was a major hindrance to a pleasant mining experience, if you can have a pleasant mining experience. And as a result of the intense daytime heat and chilly winter nights, at some point, miners began living underground, either in the mouths of old mines or in underground houses they dug out of the sandstone cliffs themselves. They quickly discovered that temperatures underground are a comfortable 66 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and the practice of living underground at Coober Pedy became a regular thing. The current townsfolk, which, depending on the source, is between 1,834 to 3,500 people, continue to live in these underground homes and have continued to build more, as miners continue to come to the area from all over the world. With opals ranging from $10 a carat to $6,000 a carat, it's not hard to blame them. Each of the underground homes is carefully dug out, room by room, and some lucky residents have even found opals in their walls. When more space is required, they simply continue digging, creating maze-like abodes that may lead in multiple directions.
That sounds so cool.
They are so cool.
You can get out of bed and dig in your walls and you might find an opal.
Yeah. And at first glance, the inside might resemble something that Fred Flintstone lived in if he lived on Mars, because the sandstone walls are pale yellow to deep orange. But each home has the capacity for electricity, and each one has multiple pipes leading to the surface for fresh air. One of the most famous dugouts in town is Faye's Underground Home, built between 1962 and 1972 by three women, Faye Naylor, Eddie Hall, and Sue Bernard. The women mined for opals as they carved out the impressive home 26 feet below the surface. And I mean it when I say it's impressive. The round walls, arched doorways, and nooks carved into the walls for books and knickknacks really does call to mind Fred Flintstone, but that's where any comparison ends. The home contains a working stove, microwave, and TV, along with quaint 1970s era furniture. But the highlight is the crystal blue water of her indoor swimming pool.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
I want to live there.
It's so cool when you look at pictures because it's just, a sandstone cliff and there's a little nook cut into it and there's a microwave sitting in it.
Wow.
Together, the homes, like Faye's, blossomed into a subterranean community that includes not just residences, but an underground museum, 3 churches, including the Serbian Orthodox Church, whose sandstone walls are decorated with intricate carvings of saints, a bookstore, an art gallery, a bar, several restaurants, and a hotel. Some of the hotel rooms even have opals still embedded in the walls, but there's no word on whether they condone hotel wall digging.
Interesting.
The residents of Coober Pedy never know what they might find, though. In 1968, Ron and Jenny Goff began digging out a new bedroom for their second baby in their underground home and discovered an old mine underneath the house dating back to 1916. Today, the Goff's home and the Old Timers mine are open to tourists.
Oh, I want to go there.
I know, it's so cool.
That's where we're retiring to.
We'd have to work in the opal mines to make money.
Yeah, but you just got to roll out of bed and dig in your walls.
What are you doing, honey? I'm just digging.
Yeah.
Andy Shields runs the Underground Art Gallery, selling local indigenous art as well as opals that he polishes in his workshop. In his spare time, Shields volunteers for the local mine rescue crew. Because that's the thing. Coober Pedy has 250,000 mine shafts.
Wow.
There are pits and caverns throughout the town and at its outskirts, and at any given time there are several hundred active claims. In June 2018, Shields, the art gallery owner, and his team rescued a man who'd fallen down a 50-foot deep mine shaft while searching for opals at night. Luckily, the man escaped with just a broken ankle.
He's lucky.
Yeah, and you might be asking, well, why was he near the mine shafts at night?
Right.
And that's because that's when the temperature finally falls. So most of the residents get out at night for some sports, like glow-in-the-dark golf.
Oh my God, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, and drive-in movies.
Wow.
So speaking of movies, Coober Pedy has been the backdrop for quite a few, most notably Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Really?
Yes. So the character Pilot Jedediah's house is the real-life underground home of Crocodile Harry, a Coober Pedy local who often claimed to be the inspiration for another movie, Crocodile Dundee. The inside of his home is covered in flags and mementos brought to him by travelers over the years. It's so cool looking. It's like it's covered in modern-day cave art from all the visitors.
Oh, I got to check that out.
Harry, also known as Latvian Baron Avid von Blumenthal.
That's quite the
That's
name.
quite the name. I think he was quite the character. He passed away in 2006, but his home is still open for tours. The popular drive-in does have a rather ominous sign, though. It reads, "Patrons, explosives are not to be brought into this theater."
That's a thing, huh? Wow.
Yeah. Coober Pedy has attracted its fair share of characters over the years, explains Stephen Staines, who works on the town's district council as general manager. People come here for the adventure, and miners would head to the drive-in with their pickup trucks packed full of equipment, including the gelignite, explosive boomy stuff that they use out in the field. If they didn't like the movie or got bored, he continued in a 2022 New York Times article, it wasn't unusual for them to throw sticks of gelignite at the screen.
Wow.
Do you still want to go there?
Yeah, I still do.
It's the coolest place.
Well, you hope you don't get a bad review.
Movie review.
Yeah.
But what a cool place.
It sounds really cool.
Hey, did you know? In ancient Greece and Rome, doctors used spider webs to make bandages. It's believed that spider webs have natural antiseptic and antifungal properties, which can help keep wounds clean and prevent infection. And they are also rich in vitamin K, which helps promote clotting. So, next time you're out of Band-Aids, you could just head up to your creepy attic and grab a handful of sticky bandages. Who'da thunk it? So, what are you talking about tonight?
Well, I was researching some stories on the internet, and I happened to come across some interesting and comical laws that are still in effect. So I decided to delve deeper into them, and here are a few that I found.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yes. Starting off, this one hits close to home, since we live in northern New York, and we can see Vermont from our house.
We sure can.
So we're starting off in Vermont. It's illegal to undress in public, but if you leave your house naked, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because in 1846, the state versus Millard debated the difference between nudist and pervert when it was determined that J. Millard of Orleans County was guilty of lewd and lascivious conduct after he repeatedly exposed himself with the intent to make people think dirty thoughts.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you're leaving your house naked, you don't think people are going to have dirty thoughts, apparently.
Right. It's illegal to paint landscapes during wartime because during wartime, conspirators could easily embed coded messages into even the most idyllic landscape, revealing military strategies.
Huh. Now that's clever. I never would have even thought of that.
I know. It's also illegal for women to get false teeth without her husband's permission. Because in 1856, a man was forced to pay for a plate of mineral teeth for his wife. The case, Gilman versus Aldi's, resulted in common law requiring women to provide dentists with written consent from their husband before dental work.
Honey, can you sign my permission slip for the dentist, please?
Nope, not at all. Also in Vermont, in Barrie, all residents must bathe on Saturday night. That's a good thing.
I was going to say, I can probably stand by that one.
Because when the state was first formed, it required that everyone bathe once a week in an attempt to mitigate the spread of disease, especially since doctors were scarce. Barrie chose Saturday, and it's stuck ever since.
Aha.
The ban on clotheslines has been unbanned because clotheslines in some Brattleboro condominium complexes and apartment buildings was banned because it was unseemly and offensive. And however, in 2009, Brattleboro lifted the ban after realizing clotheslines are more energy efficient. Then they went so far as to prohibit the banning.
So they unbanned the band and then prohibited further banning.
That's right. Now we're heading over to South Carolina. It's illegal for persons under the age of 18 to play pinball because since the 1940s, pinball machines frequently awarded a free game for certain points, which then turned the game into gambling.
Oh, but that was the best part when you got your free game.
I know.
Who knew I was gambling at the age of 5?
The whole time. You're breaking the law if you're in South Carolina. Heading to North Carolina, it's illegal to attend any meeting wearing a costume because it was a cleverly worded way to cut down on the KKK.
Ah.
Alaska. It's against the law in Fairbanks for moose to use the sidewalks. Right. Because in 1915, townsfolk were fed up with Pedy Bolchela's shenanigans. He was constantly leading his pet moose into stores, especially the saloon. So they put a stop to it by effectively banning the moose's entry.
Aha. So if the poor moose couldn't walk on the sidewalks, it couldn't get into the buildings.
Yep, mission accomplished.
They didn't have back doors to the saloon?
Imagine they did. It doesn't mention it here.
I'm rooting for the moose. I can't help it.
In California, it's illegal to eat oranges while taking a bath. Because in the 1920s, it was believed that the citric acid from the oranges mixed with the natural bath oils and would cause an explosion.
Oh, geez. I wonder if it really did or if they just thought that it would.
Oh, I'm wondering if maybe it was just like people farting in the bathtub and all those bubbles were coming up. Just saying. Also in California, selling and eating ice cream on the sidewalks of Carmel by the sea was illegal. Why? Because it was considered too messy and a nuisance to clean. Until 1986, when Mayor Clint Eastwood repealed the law. Now people can eat their ice cream on the damn sidewalks. Go Clint. Not only was he cleaning up the West, but he was taking care of the sidewalks. Louisiana. Women in New Orleans aren't illegally permitted to drive cars unless their husbands walk ahead of them waving a flag.
Why?
Because of male patriarchy, I guess.
Oh my gosh, but if she's a bad driver, she's going to run him over anyway. While he waves his little flag.
Perhaps so.
You just see a Model T with the little flag sticking out of the front bumper.
I mean, I don't know where I stand on that one. In New Jersey, it's illegal to wear a bulletproof vest while committing a violent crime like murder.
Oh,
Why? I'm assuming it adds another charge in potential court cases, but I couldn't find a rationale. I did find several copies of the law, though.
Oh, jeez.
Headed over to the Lone Star State, Texas, you don't even have to be at your own wedding to be legally married. How? Well, if you have a legit reason, like military service, and you file the correct paperwork, you can be married by proxy. Yup, some other person can stand in for you. I hope it's just at the wedding and not the honeymoon.
I was going to say, that might make the wedding night a little awkward.
Or,
you know,
it all depends what you're into.
I could see the stand-in being like, I'm not sure where my responsibilities end on this day.
Tag me in. In Texas, the possession of more than 6 dildos is prohibited. I know that's going to disappoint some people, but this is true. A Texas statute known as the Obscene Device Law declares it is a crime to possess 6 or more obscene devices or identical or similar obscene articles. These infernal devices include dildos. So in Texas, you can legally own more guns and display them in public than you can sex toys, as some dildo-wielding campaigners have pointed out.
Why would you need 6? No, don't answer that question. Don't, just move on. Moving on.
Don't flaunt your booby pillows in Kern County, California, at least not near the highway. The lawmakers of Kern County, California have a real issue with the public sale of articles depicting female breast. In particular, they abhor the sale of stuffed objects known as booby pillows.
Shouldn't we all object to the booby pillows?
The fake ones, yes. According to the law, the sale of booby pillows along public highways is a species of indecency and vulgarity, which cannot be ignored or controlled by passerbys. Vendors can't sell or even display booby pillows within 1,000 feet of a highway. Doing so could earn them a $500 fine or a 90-day stint in the county jail.
Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, if you're driving down the highway and there's a thing by the side of the road and there's the big booby pillows hanging off of it, I could see where it could be a distraction for some people. They would take their eyes off the road.
Right. Well, you know, they're texting on their cell phones, so they're going to miss the booby pillow thing anyway. In Utah, marrying your cousin gets complicated. Whether or not you can marry your cousin in the United States varies from state to state. Marriages between first cousins are illegal in 25 states and legal in 20. In the remaining states, it gets more complicated. In Utah, for example, first cousins may legally marry only if they are at least 55 years and older and can prove to a state judge that one of them cannot procreate. Alternatively, first cousins can wait until they're both at least 65, in which case they can marry without permission.
Right, because they're beyond childbearing years.
Correct.
Right.
I guess they don't want any googly-eyed kids running around the state.
Jeez. Oh, dear. Please don't email us nasty things.
It's where my mind wanders. In Michigan, it's illegal to seduce and debauch an unmarried woman. An archaic law in Michigan, which has been on the books since 1931, states that any man who shall seduce and debauch any unmarried woman shall be guilty of a felony. If found guilty, the man can be punished with up to 5 years in the state prison or a fine of not more than $2,500. Being such an imprecise law, it's rarely used. But lawyers have used it as a loophole to protect their clients from stronger charges. So now we're going into Minnesota.
Okay.
It's illegal for men in Minnesota to have intimate sexual relationships with a live fish. It's never crossed my mind, but it's on the books there.
Dead fish are okay, though, just not live fish.
It doesn't go into that. So I think that dead fish are okay, yes.
I mean, if they're clarifying with the word live, you would... See, the scary part is that some of these things had to have been done in order for it to become a law.
Oh, of course.
Oh, goodness.
Husbands in Willowdale, Oregon, can be fined for talking dirty during intercourse, but their wives can say whatever they please.
That's right.
That's just so wrong. Washington State, sex with an animal is perfectly legal for men as long as the animal weighs less than 40 pounds.
That's just gross. Move on to the next one.
I don't know why there's a weight requirement there. I couldn't find anything on that. Florida.
You're going to have an interesting search history when I go to check the Kindle later.
I know. My Google search history is going to be awful. I'm probably going to get investigated. Florida. If you have sex in any other position than the missionary, you're breaking the law. In the state of Florida, men may not be seen publicly in any kind of strapless gown.
Interesting. I wonder why strapless is so offensive to them, but other gowns are...
Perfectly fine?
Yeah, I don't think any of the gowns should be offensive to them, but why strapless in particular?
I don't know. Maybe they have hairy shoulders? Okay, so trigger alert. You might want to have your kiddos leave the room for this one.
And like the ones before that, when they shouldn't have had their children leave the room for. This one you're going to warn us about. It must be really bad.
Well, to some, perhaps so.
Okay. I'm bracing myself.
In Florida, it's illegal to have sex with a porcupine. I would think that'd be in every state.
I think
kind of goes without saying. I mean, I'm adventurous, but I have my limits. And I think a porcupine would be one of them. So, 2 Russian tourists who challenged a Florida law prohibiting sexual relationships with a porcupine have had to undergo a lengthy treatment for genital inflammation. Anton, 32, and Yevgeny, 30, residents of St. Petersburg were spending their vacation in the United States with a group of friends. At some point in their journey, the two got a hold of a booklet listing the weirdest U.S. laws. Since they were already in Florida, their attention was drawn to a Florida law prohibiting sex with porcupines.
Okay, was that the only law in this booklet about Florida? And that's why they decided to go for that one?
Seems like it's the only one they wanted to break in Florida. I'm sure there's many laws, but...
And then do they not have porcupines in Russia? Like, they don't know that it's the animal with the big spiky quills that, you know...
That I don't know.
Not that they should be going after animals anyway. Just keep going.
After a good deal of whiskey, the Russians felt curious about what might have prompted the law and went in search of the animal.
Ugh.
Within 1 hour, a porcupine was found.
Oh, poor thing.
Within 1 hour, a porcupine was found, and Anton and Yevgeny were drunk and brave enough to take off their pants and approach it.
I don't know about brave.
Can you imagine the conversation leading up to that? There
it
is over there.
I'd rather not.
It's making eyes at me. The next morning, both were standing in the Cedars-Sinai Clinic in Los Angeles. Doctors were amazed and plucked porcupine needles from their genitals.
What did they expect?
Had the two not fled from Florida quickly enough, they would have had to face the law that they had just breached.
Okay. That's not like breached.
Wait, I'm going back.
Sorry.
Had the two not fled Florida quickly enough, they would have had to face the law they had just breached. Back in Russia, both men had to undergo a lengthy treatment for inflammation caused by the porcupine needles. Obviously, the two learned nothing from the story of the Russian man who in January lost half his penis after trying to force a raccoon into oral sex.
Oh, that's not true.
That it is.
You actually found it.
Well, it's on the internet, so it's gotta be true.
What I don't understand. Okay, well, there's a lot I don't understand about the porcupine story. But you said both men had inflammation. So after the first guy got full of quills, the second guy wasn't like, maybe this is a bad idea?
Apparently not, but I'd like to know what they were drinking so I can stay far away from it. So if you live in Florida or you're planning a vacation there, please don't get frisky with the porcupines, especially when it's not consensual.
Yeah, so thank you, dear, for sharing weird laws in the U.S. that get broken far more often than you'd think. And as always, you can check our sources in our show notes for more information.
That's right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up for this episode.
Yep, we'll see all you wanderers next week.
See you soon.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment. It really helps us move up the list so people can find us. See you next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.